We have reached the absolute golden era in terms of cinema, and I know a lot of you are going to say, Sean, are you not reviewing the Karen trailer today, which looks like hot garbage? And yes, I am reviewing the Karen trailer, but I'm not going to be doing that low-level analysis that you'll see on other channels where they just say, this movie, anti-white racism. The name of the movie is a stereotype for a white woman. No. You can get that low analysis other places. That's not what you come here for, and that's not what I give you. In order to understand what's happening across big screens around the country, you need to understand what era we're living in terms of film, and specifically in terms of horror movies. This is the era of Black fear being put onto the screen, and I'm 100% here for it. And it all started, of course, or at least it got into the broad consciousness of Americans, of course, with the movie Get Out. Now, a lot of people don't like the movie Get Out. A lot of people say Get Out's racist. But here's the thing. Film is a visual representation of ideas. It's actually a visual language. It's called film language, which is quite fitting now that I say it out loud. And horror movies are representations of fear. So what we saw in the movie Get Out, you can read as racist because white people are all the villains and they're trying to take over the body, spoiler alert, of the black people in the movie. Or you can read it as the fear that a black person who is dating a white woman who comes from a wealthy background feels in going home to meet that family. A fear that Jordan Peele himself, being married to a white woman, likely felt, and this is what is being represented. It's not a literal interpretation of what happens, it's the fear of the point of view character, which is the director and the writer, Jordan Peele. Totally fine with that. 100% on board with that. I don't see why people have to be so against it, so on edge. You know, back in the day when people were saying that they just want to save art from the woke because the woke were trying to police art, don't become an art policeman yourself in order to save it from the woke. A perfect example of this that has no racial connotation, of course, is the movie It Follows. If you haven't seen it, it's absolutely great. The premise of It Follows is that after having a one-night stand, our lead character finds out that there is a monster following her, and if the monster catches her, it will kill her. And the only way to get rid of the monster is to not actually get rid of it, it's to pass it on to somebody else. This is obviously an allegory or a visual representation of fears of STDs, aka it has some message about casual sex, but it's not necessarily saying casual sex will cause a creepy monster to come around and follow you and eventually kill you by breaking your leg in a grotesque way. Spoiler alert, again, I'm so sorry for spoiling it and saying spoiler alert after the fact, even though I'm not gonna stop doing it. So Karen is a representation of fear. However, because the fear happens to be a 5'2" white woman, it's unintentionally one of the most hilarious things that I've ever seen in my entire life, and this is why we gotta get into the trailer.
This is a long way from East Point.
There's a movie called Nocturnal Animals. It is available on Netflix. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal, it stars Amy Adams. It's absolutely fantastic. Again, it's on Netflix. And in this movie, Amy Adams is existing in two timelines. One timeline where she's young and she's full of life and businesswoman, living an unfulfilled life, but her career is quite fulfilled. And she is represented like, is afraid when she's young that she's going to be like her mother. And this is represented to us, the idea, way less pasty than she is in later years. And her mother is completely pasty to show us that Amy Adams over time became like her mother. Now, this is how a good film would use visual storytelling to do something that they went out of their way to make this woman up, to make her extra white, just in quest off of that side quest with me.
Tell me about your new neighbors. They're black.
Whoa, Karen. Hard BL, a hard A, and a hard CK. I can't believe that you did that. I'm disgusted. Also, if you didn't believe me before, look at Karen compared to the other white woman who is the non-racist in this scene. Look at how pasty she is. Seriously. Also, rude. Completely rude. Totally against it.
Do you mind keeping it down? If you don't comply, I'll tell the manager.
Again, I'm sorry to keep pausing this trailer, but it's absolutely hilarious. Like, this is your horror villain. There are people like this in restaurants, especially in small towns. Like, there's very much a different notion of manners and definitely a racial thing. She's gonna get the manager on you. Karen is asking to see the manager, and this is a horror movie. Do you hear the music being played in the background of this horror movie, that slow piano. Like, this is serious.
Hi, I am Karen Drexler. I'm your neighbor.
Her name is Karen Drexler, an iconic name in cinema that will live on across the history of film for generations to come. Although, I would have went with something a little bit more subtle, like Karen, I'm a mean white lady. That might have actually, you know, subtly snuck in who she was before.
You need to be taking your trash cans off the curb right when the trash is picked up.
But I also find it funny that she's like, you should move your garbage cans back after they collect the trash, which is good advice. In a lot of places, you would get a ticket for that. And you might even get a ticket not just by your local sanitation department, but by the homeowners association. So Karen, with her evil walk away and being all evil and white and racist, and evil and white and racist, actually, decent advice. Just saying. I know I'm supposed to be scared now. This is a horror movie, but solid advice. Just saying.
Is she nice?
Yeah, she's nice.
She's nice.
She's nice.
When is white supremacy gonna end? All this niceness from white people, honestly, it's just making people of color's lives so hard. You know, I've really started to embrace my Hispanic heritage, Puerto Rico, long live it. And I have to say, one of my biggest problems, and I encounter it not frequently because I don't live in a particularly white neighborhood, but sometimes I encounter it, is white racists being not nice.
Wait a minute, we have a white entitled neighbor named Karen?
Karen.
Again, the fact that the horror stinger emphasizes Karen is supposed to tell you that this is like an intimidating situation, but it really isn't. It's just not at all. But let's move on.
There she is, slaving away in the kitchen.
Look, I don't know what horror movies this filmmaker watched prior to making movies, but microaggressions, really? She said slaving away in the kitchen, common expression. She also said, show me to the master bedroom at some point too. Really bad stuff. Definitely appropriate underscoring of this scene that's going on in this trailer. I'm terrified. The hair on my arms is actually standing up because she said, there she is. Maybe I have to bleep this out. Slaving away in the kitchen.
I've come across some very suspecting teenagers.
Suspecting?
Can you please hurry up? Please, they're very aggressive. Yep.
So legitimately, when I watched this scene, I thought this kid right here was a white dude, but when they cut to the next frame, I guess you can see that this is a person of color. Maybe not the best casting. Also, very suspecting person, and then she panics. These Karens always calling the police on black people, just living their lives, man. Just living their lives. When were you gonna let them just live their lives? When?
My wallet with my ID at home. Leave us alone, we didn't do anything!
Also, did we just get a day for night moment in the trailer? She called the cops on these kids. They were filming her. By the way, this would have went viral. Shaun King would have raised money for them. Maybe that guy was actually Shaun King, hence my confusion. But regardless, they would have raised money for them and they would have canceled Karen at the PTA or something or other. But the idea that they had them waiting there on their knees until nighttime, and this guy forgot his ID at home. By the way, don't forget your ID at home. It's actually really useful to have on you. I guess Karen helped out with that situation. Well, not really. She created the situation where you might need it. But also, there's 3 of them, so maybe we're in a new situation where the racism is being racist. Also, get ready for the twist, because even the filmmakers behind this ridiculous movie realized that a 5'2", 90-pound white woman in her 40s might not be the scariest villain for your horror movie.
You take care of him, and I will take care of her.
So what I love about this is Karen's like, I'm gonna take care of her, but I need you to take care of him. And of course, she's talking to her brother. And unsurprisingly, in the least plot twist that was ever plot twisted, her brother is a police officer.
My office has uncovered some disturbing information on her and her brother.
Now, when I say that this is so uninteresting, so unclever, so uncreative, what I mean is, you could go down to like the Hack Writers Association writing racialized stories right now and just pick a random page on anybody's script and you will find an evil white police officer. That's just a fact. Like, go down there, go Google it, go Google Hack Writing Filmmaking Association 101. and just go sit down, grab a random page, even if it's on a computer, just stop right there, do a keyword search, and you will find it right there on the page. It's on every page. This is the hackiest thing humanly possible, but, you know, that's how it goes.
She doesn't like black people.
We have a search warrant.
Well, I'm black.
Oh my god. This is like a Lifetime movie in terms of the acting. You want to take that again? I hope there's something else for the feature film if you're actually going to put this out in theaters where you expect people to see it. But Jesus Christ, that line reading alone makes this movie worth the price of admission.
Well, I'm black.
When you're being out-acted by a child actor, which, by the way, child actors are notoriously terrible, you have a problem. And also, like, how is that a reasonable response to the girl telling you that her obviously racist mother, or relative, or whoever, doesn't like black people? Obviously, that includes you. You're picking up your trash, which she, earlier in the day, kicked down on the floor because she doesn't like you. She's shown you, I don't know how many times at this point in the movie, that she doesn't like you based on the color of your skin, and you're like, to this kid who's like giving you a warning, this would be the harbinger in this situation. But what about me? Like, that's the equivalent of that answer. And again, we gotta see that take one more time.
Well, I'm black.
I know, she doesn't like you either.
Look, I was trying to be subtle, but obviously you're an idiot. She doesn't like you either. I know that you're black. I have eyes, right? I can see. I'm not colorblind. I was giving you a warning, idiot. Adult woman who is an idiot and didn't understand what I was trying to imply. The kid's character has more subtlety than her. One more reading of that line.
Well, I'm black. Well, I'm black. Well, I'm black.
I'm also amused when they find the Confederate flag hidden amongst her possessions. In parts of this country, people fly the Confederate flag completely openly. It's not hidden at all, and oftentimes it's not associated with any type of racial context. I talked about this before multiple different times on this channel. There was a show called The Dukes of Hazzard, in a time period when there was like 4 television channels. This show was incredibly popular, specifically in the South. This is one of the reasons why the General Lee, the vehicle with the Confederate flag on it, is still a highly sought-after vehicle. So while as a no-good Northerner, I have no interest in the Confederate flag, and I completely understand people who are not at all interested in the Confederate flag because they view it as a symbol of racism, and that's why they would never fly it, you have to understand that a huge portion of the people that are flying it, the majority, don't consider themselves racist. And a more interesting discovery, if you wanted to make a call back to the Confederacy or draw some kind of a connection since you're throwing all subtlety out of the window, wouldn't be the discovery of the modern Confederate flag, but something that has to do with the original Confederate flag that was broadly flown by the Confederacy, or some type of personal, familial connection with Confederate soldiers. Maybe a room with all this Confederate, like, war memorabilia or something like that, even though, again, that is collected mostly by collectors who obviously would be on the northern side of the Civil War. It's just Southern Confederate stuff is so much more rare because they weren't as well organized and they didn't really have a lot of standard issue stuff. But again, totally lost all the subtlety. Maybe even throw in a Nazi thing in there. If you're just gonna not even try to make this movie clever at all, just find the Nazi room in the house. This is an escaped Nazi person. Pull a Boy Season 2, even though that character was a Nazi in the comic book, so everybody chill out, and do something like that. Also, that character was a dude. Just saying.
What do we have here?
When you got a hammer, everything looks like nails.
So I like how we have a little bit of dispute between the officers. This younger officer's talking to his commanding officer. He's like, I don't like the way that you planted evidence blatantly in front of me. Now, in the minds of the regressive, police never snitch on other police officers. But in reality, 90% of the complaints against officers for unethical things comes from other police officers. And the reason why is because a bunch of officers are Boy Scouts. They're dorks. So of course, they're rigid in following the rules, even within the police department. So having the conversation in the stairwell between these two officers, all hidden like, and this officer not trying to go to a superior, is absolutely goofy, but not as goofy as the response that when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I guess the police badge is the hammer in this analogy, and African Americans the nails. I honestly, I don't even know. Like, Just let's wrap the trailer.
Shut your mouth, boy.
Again, subtlety and this movie never met each other, never drove past each other on the highway.
Bad things happen to people that don't comply.
That's the closing line of a trailer of a movie that actually exists. This movie will actually be shown to people. This was edited together, it was shot by a director, it was written down on paper, and that is the closing line of the trailer. Comply. Seriously, bad things happen to people who don't comply. That's the level that we're at. You see, this is why I'm not against this trend, because while you will get movies that get broad praise like Jordan Peele's Get Out, and I actually like that movie for reasons I explained earlier, what you're also going to get is the cheap knockoffs and the crap like this. And when you see visual representations of fears grown adults have, and those fears are ridiculous, you realize that maybe some of the claims of these grown adults that consider themselves activists are also ridiculous. So overall, the Karen trailer, 10 out of 10, definitely gonna go see it. I might even see it twice. Can't wait to tell my girlfriend that the first movie we're gonna go to when movies are open is this movie. Sorry, Black Widow, they just got my money. Now that's all I really have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's a lighter video. I actually was considering doing way more heavy stories, but then I thought this was important in that this is not at all important. But let me know what you guys think about this totally not important topic down in the comments below. If you liked the video, you can show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on all my social medias. They're linked in the description. You can support me via the support links. You can get yourself a t-shirt. Their merch shelf. It's amazing. You guys really been supporting the t-shirts. I appreciate it. Till next time. Oh, by the way, compliance. The bad things happen to people who don't comply.